Welcome to What's Your Story, a series where we uncover the power of storytelling behind Africa's boldest voices in business, creativity, and leadership. I'm Solea Munyana, narrative strategist and founder of Narrative Gurus. And in every episode, we explore how strategy and story can shift the course of a life or a brand. Today, I'm joined by one of East Africa's sharpest minds in branding and marketing, Jackie Namara Rukare. With over 2 decades of experience across local and multinational brands, Jackie has helped businesses uncover not just what they do, but why it matters. Jackie, what's one personal or brand story that has stuck with you lately and why?
There's quite a number of brand stories that I connect to, but I think lately the one that has really been particularly poignant is Serena Tugume sharing her story with I don't even know how to pronounce the word, Vitiligo. Okay, there you go. The format that she picked to make those phone calls to herself at those different ages, to confront the things that she was thinking and feeling at that particular time. I have found that such a powerful way to connect with people who, have a similar condition, and for them to be reassured that they're not the only ones facing it. And I think if you think about what a brand is supposed to do, it's supposed to bridge that emotional connection. And I think for me lately, that's one, at least from a personal brand perspective, that has really connected the dots for me in that particular sense.
I think I love the examples that you shared. With Serena, yes, 100%. I think watching Serena share her story, and I think that's something I would encourage everyone to check out. I think one of the bravest things I'd ever seen her do, because we both know her personally, but to do something so brave and yet so personal and has resonated with many people, not only just with the people who have any condition that make them feel like they're alone, that sort of makes them feel like society doesn't understand them. I think to me that is, it's going to be something that does build her brand in a very, very powerful way. Okay, so now we're going to the real part of this. One question I'd like to ask you is, what was the first brand that you ever helped build or shift, and what did it teach you about storytelling and perception?
I think it has to be one of my favorites. At Unilever, I helped to launch Royco, which was a mix. And that was like my first big official project, and the amount of pressure to get it done right on a really tiny budget. So we had to think about how we were going to get Royco to become a household name. And so we went and did what we call an immersion. An immersion is where you go and put yourselves in the shoes of your consumers to see how they might incorporate what you're trying to sell them into their day-to-day living. And in this case, we wanted to figure out how could Royco become part of the cooking that people do every day. So we went into people's kitchens, in their homes. We went to what in Uganda we call tonninyina, the back alleyways where if you can ignore the hygiene, some of the most amazing food comes out of those alleyways. So we went and saw all those different things. The ladies who sell food in the marketplaces, some of the higher-end restaurants, just so that we could get an idea of what it would take to actually bring this into every home or professional cook's space. And we quickly figured out that if we wanted this to reach across a wide audience, our most powerful, ambassador was going to be the ladies who cook food in the market. Why? Because so many people eat there. And it was also a place where we could do demonstrations with food they had prepared. So it wasn't deemed or seen that we came with something which we had already pre-done. No, we would just say, give us your boiled beans. Then you'd have before Royco, after Royco. A very simple way of telling a story, nothing fancy, because we didn't have any money for TV advertising. So the only thing we're relying on was product demonstrations and trade merchandising. So making sure we put those things in place. So we went and did all these food demos, and we would ask people from the audience to come and test, and would blindfold them. And every single time, the food with Royco always won the taste test. So we knew that that was a fail-safe way for us to get our message across. And after you'd done the demonstrations and proved to the audiences that this was actually a good thing to add to your repertoire for cooking, we would then go and make sure that we left the local dookers with a little bit of stock, so that anybody who had seen the demonstration, we had given them a free sample to go test it out. They would then have somewhere they could replenish their supplies. So for me, it's like a baby. I felt like I bathed it, and I've watched the brand grow over the years. And I think the one thing that is consistent is that if you want a tasty meal, if you want something that's made from natural ingredients, and you want that, I think they call it the joy of cooking, because cooking is always about sharing a piece of love with friends and family. And that theme, from a storytelling perspective, has always been consistent. Royco is now in several different formats. I'm hoping some of them will be on our shelves soon in form of marinades and sauces and things like that. But that's the essence of the story around Royco. You want your food to taste good, you know what to do. You use Royco.
I think that's quite interesting. But I think also just to add on to that, I would ask, how did this change how you decided to approach brands and telling stories after that? I mean, sometimes when you've had a successful story like that, you've tried immersion, you do the demonstrations, and you start to see, oh, this actually worked here. I could also apply it somewhere else. Did that impact how you did your work from then on?
Yes, I think certainly for the product, because after Unilever, I went into Uganda Breweries, and that's also still a physical product, primarily alcoholic beverages. So it's the same principle. Go and see how people incorporate your drink into their lives. So the classic case, if you use maybe Uganda Waraji, Uganda Waraji has always been about, we will be there in all your celebration moments. And that's something that has rung true if you go back even maybe 20 years. What you might see changing is how that is reflected. So because now we are attracting a younger drinker, and the aspirations of that younger audience are not the same as a 60-year-old. So if you look at the advertising now, a 60-year-old would probably be quite alienated. But that appeals to a person who is trying to get a sense of what it means to be a Ugandan, putting their identity out in the world. So if you look at what, say, Uganda Waraji and Guinness are doing, their storytelling is very much focused around the culture, and not culture in the traditional sense of a, Busuti or Gomesi or Luwombo, but culture in terms of what are the things that we hold dear. Family, communion, friendship, celebration, coming together, and how then that is expressed in different formats. So those things ring true. I think it's a bit more difficult with services because they're not tangible. You can't touch it, you can't feel it. So how do I explain that to you? So I was actually looking at a clip from the Cannes Awards for advertising. And it was interesting to see what a lot of the service brands did to try and activate. So they had interesting things like, I think, cafes. So maybe you're a financial services brand, but how do I draw people to come to me? So I create a space for people to come and talk business. So I actually set up a proper cafe. I give away the coffee for free. And I act as a magnet for people to come and have conversations. And while they're there, we can tell them about the products and the services that we offer and how we can, help scale or build their businesses. So you sort of have to go more the experiential route, is what I'm beginning to see for a lot of the services brands, because if I'm a accounting software, I mean, how much can I can't really immerse myself, but I can create opportunities for you to try before you buy. That's my way of giving you the experience. So we are seeing that approach of storytelling is also coming into services, even for services where traditionally it was kind of maybe frowned upon. But now people are beginning to understand, if you don't have a narrative that you're putting out there about what you can do to help, that is relevant for your audience, then you will get left behind, because you might have a fantastic product, but if no one knows about it, then you just have a really nice product or service. Yeah.
So this is a very good question, and this is something that I feel applies to many of us who live in Uganda or in Africa. In a landscape where many businesses operate on tight budgets and even tighter timelines and deadlines, like you explained with your experience with Royco, how can small brands still communicate powerfully and authentically? Because there might be that thing of, but I don't have enough money, I don't have the right connections. So how do I go about getting my brand out there?
Sure. I think the first thing is know your customer. And a lot of times we think we know our customers, but we aren't paying maybe attention to the things that are valuable to them. So think about your customer as in the same way that you'd think about approaching a person that you want to date with marriage in mind.
Okay, so there's a real commitment.
Yes, so you have to be committed to it, and you have to get to know them perhaps even better than they know themselves. That's when you know now you have that sort of deep, intimate understanding, because the point at when you start to realize benefit is when you can even predict based on a pattern of behavior that you've seen over a period of time. Then you know, it's about that time when this customer of mine is going to be asking for this, and I can preemptively offer it. Because then I'll think, oh, wow, how did they know? But there is a pattern. Now, knowing your customer is about looking at the information they have, especially in terms of purchase behavior. And I think we are lucky now, a lot of systems are automated. I'll take, for example, one of the supermarkets. I shop there every week, but they have never used that information to do anything proactively to talk to me. But every week, their till tells them exactly what I have purchased.
And then they go further to make you register for points or something that sometimes you may or may not get, but let's not go there.
But the point is, we are lucky that now with automation, you are able to access near real-time data about how your customers are using your product or your service. The question is, do we actually look at that data to see what it's telling us about this customer? So if I can find out if you're a young family with a baby and a couple of toddlers, I can figure out what your family looks like and what your consumption looks like by just looking at your purchases. Because I'll see there's diapers, I'll probably see there's yogurt. There are certain things which would tell me there's a young child in this house. Those are all available on just a receipt. But how often are we looking at that information that is before us every single day? So knowing your customer goes beyond just what they buy from you. What do they like? What don't they like? How often are they purchasing? Where else are they getting information about you? What are their hopes and dreams and aspirations? Because when you're on a shoestring budget, if you don't have that knowledge, you're going to be putting your money in the things that are not important to your customers. And you don't have the luxury to do that. And especially when your customer base is still small, it's difficult to do that if you're already in thousands of customers, because you will have to automate. But if you're reaching 100 customers on a regular, surely you should be able to know something about them, because then you want to know. Solea's birthday is coming up. Solea has been our customer for the last 10 years. She usually buys, I don't know, whatever the items are.
I'm normally buying chocolate and lots of goodies like cream cheese and things just to enjoy. Basically food, yes.
So because we have that, let's put together a really nice food hamper and send it to her on her birthday. It's going to cost you, it's negligible really in the scheme of things. But guess what? Solea receiving that birthday hamper from her supermarket tells me that I'm not just a number. And who am I going to? I will be bragging for the next God how many months about you, what does your supermarket do for you, kind of a thing. And that's free advertising for you. Yeah, but you have to know, that's the starting point. You know your customer to that granular level of detail. The other thing is, what do you represent? What do you stand for? Are you going on value? In other words, if I come to you and I know that when I give you my money, I will get my money's worth and maybe a little bit more. Is there a particular benefit? So we all know the Panadol is pain relief. Volvo is safety. Those things have never changed for all the years that those companies have operated. The form and the way in which they deliver it changes with time, but that's their positioning is very, very clear. So for you, what is your thing? The typical Ugandan business operator, my neighbor brings shoes and bags from Turkey. I'm also going to bring shoes and bags from Turkey, and I'm going to bring the exact same. So you're like, okay, bring the shoes and bags, but get something different so that you also then attract your specific people, because they know that you're the go-to person for that specific thing. But when you try and deviate, or you just try and copy, you don't know what this person's business model is. Maybe they're evading taxes. Like, God knows why they have picked what they have picked. If you're just copying blindly because this person tells you, yeah, no, this business is really good, I'm making a lot of money. Yes, they are making a lot of money because they've worked out something that allows them to make the money. But do you have that information or that detail? Maybe not. Maybe the third thing I would say is that, especially when you're a small business or a smaller business, you as a business owner are the brand of the business. So whether you like it or not, your brand and your business brand are connected. Your business will be judged based on your behavior and your actions, and vice versa. You will be judged for your business's action and behavior. So you have to make sure that the two of you are aligned, and unfortunately, there are no days off. They see you, they see the business. They see the business, they see you. And I think sometimes people forget that those two things are intertwined. There are people who come to you because they are comfortable, they trust you, and therefore, that's why they give you business. And if you can't completely extract yourself out of that, even some of the big businesses, think about Richard Branson and the Virgin Group. The people who do business because they're like, yeah, the Virgin Group belongs to Richard Branson, and that's why I will. Yes, that's why I'm going to do business, or be a patron of that business. And maybe the last thing is, there is no free lunch. You will need to make some sort of investment in marketing. The monetary value might not be large, but it will have a time implication, that you have to invest something, because if you put in nothing, you'll get nothing out of it. So if you don't have the big budget, let the little budget work for you the most optimum way. But understand that this means that if there's a networking opportunity where you can showcase your business, you need to be present to go and talk about your business and explain what you do and encourage people to come in and take on whatever they need to take on your business. So there is never ever going to be marketing for free. No. Either you're putting in time or you're putting in money, or both. So that's the mentality. Even if you have a social media account, because people are under the impression that if I open a social media account, opening the account is free.
Indeed.
If you want value from that account, you have to invest. Either you put in money to run ads off your account, or you'll put in time by making sure you're posting regularly and telling people what's going on about your business. So time, money. There is no free anything.
Yeah, there's no way of getting out of it.
And maybe the last one is find a peer of a network of peers.
Yes. Don't go it alone. Yeah.
Yes, when you go it alone, it's a lonely journey, and trust that whatever you're going through, somebody somewhere has already been through it. Yeah. But if you're in isolation, you will never know how to make that little shoestring budget stretch, because someone will tell you, no, first we solve that problem. Let me tell you what you need to do. Yeah. So having that communion or community definitely helps.
Oh gosh, there's so many gems there that you've dropped. I love that you're broken them down, but I think the one for me that has stood out is when they see their business, they see you. When they see you, they see the business. And I was watching an interesting podcast by the Tiger sisters, sisters who attended, all the Ivy Leagues that you can think of, Stanford, Yale and whatever. And I think one of them worked for Goldman Sachs. And I think there were these 10 rules that as a new employee, you got as part of your orientation package. And I think rule number 10 was, wherever you go, you represent the business. Said, whatever you're doing, if it appeared in the front page of the newspapers tomorrow, would you be comfortable with it? And that was enough to say, whatever you're doing, would you be comfortable? Like now, of course, to be social media pages, you have to now always sort of be switched on, which is hard, but I like that you've shared that. Thanks, Jackie. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. I think you've talked about the copycat culture that we have, which is very common, and you just need to see it when you walk down our streets. Any shopping arcade, it's like if the first one is selling jeans, it's jeans, 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 jeans throughout, right? So I think one of the things that I would love for you to actually draw on, to talk about, is what are the common branding mistakes that Ugandan entrepreneurs make when positioning their business, and how would you fix them? What's like, maybe you could think of the most common mistake that you see, apart from the copycat culture?
I think maybe the big one is that people think that if they've developed a brand identity, so you have a logo, you have a tagline, you've got your colors, they think we are done. Unfortunately, that's actually the thing you should think about last. What you need to be thinking about is the brand experience. What do I stand for? What am I going to offer? What promises am I going to make and deliver on? Because I come to the brand with certain expectations based on perhaps maybe a recommendation from someone who's used it before, or I've seen an advert, or someone has shared maybe something in a WhatsApp group, and I'm curious about, the brand. Your reputation will be made or broken based on my experience with you. So it is actually more important to start with, when I have customers that come to me, what do they want them to experience, when they're coming? And we talk about something called a customer journey. When they're searching for information, how am I showing up in their spaces? Do I have a website? Do I have social media presence? What information is on there? Is it current? Does it look good? Has it been presented well? And then when they start to explore alternatives, are there places where they can go and look at how I've been rated? For people who are in the hospitality business, then people go and first check you out on maybe TripAdvisor or something similar, where there's a rating system, because we believe others more than we believe. So I subscribe to Amazon. If I see something I like, I'm never ever going to buy until I've looked at the ratings, and I want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then I can make an informed decision. So where can we get that information that shows me how consistent you have been in delivering your promises? Because if you can't do that consistent delivery, then you are going to lose customers. It doesn't matter how brilliant your branding, your logos look like. It doesn't matter how fantastic your shop front looks. No one is going to keep. You will only have one-time purchasers, and then they'll be like, oh, that person, don't bother going back there. The experience is terrible. So I would say start backwards. First, design the experience in terms of what do we want, and the experience applies both for employees and the external customers, because somehow we expect a miracle when we are treating our employees terribly. We think that they're supposed to deliver good, and you can always tell when an employee, the employee experience is not great by looking at how the employees treat the external customers, because all they do is the common mistake here is thinking that the logo and the identity will solve an experience problem. Yeah. It won't. It will not solve a distribution problem. You need to first sort out the basics. Then people will begin to associate your brand with the consistent delivery on the promises you're making with your branding. But if you start with the branding is the logos and what are the more exciting things, to be honest. But they're the things you should probably do last. Because you want to, there's that expression, a pig with lipstick is still a pig. You can't hide the fact. So don't be the pig.
In other words.
Yeah, the branding is the lipstick, but it should be, on something which is attractive to your clients. Otherwise, you're still just hiding flaws and hiding things that don't work. So I'd say that's maybe the most common, starting with the wrong things and thinking that the branding is going to fix
It's going to be
the basics that are not working.
Oh gosh, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Jackie. So I'd like to now shift this over to you. You and I have had conversations in the past about this, but I would like you to just talk about personal brand, because I think some people think it's only restricted to celebrities or high profile people who should think about brand. But as we have grown up in this business, we've seen things evolve. And now, of course, social media sort of put a magnifying glass to say, actually, you do have to talk about yourself. There has to be something about your brand. You're in the business. So I'm curious how your own brand has evolved over time and what it has cost you professionally or personally to stay relevant and credible.
Very good question. I would say that I think early in my career, I was under the mistaken notion that my hard work would speak for me. And we've had this conversation so many times. And even though I was in marketing, like, I should have understood that the first brand you market is yourself. So that probably cost me a number of opportunities because I just assumed, but you see the work that I do and it's great. So I should be the person that you are thinking about, for that next role in terms of a promotion or progression through the career path. And the reality is that that's not the case. The people who are sitting in rooms where decisions are being made about your career need to know who you are, what you stand for, what you're interested in, what opportunities you're looking for. And I think all of that activity tends to be branded as office politics. But a lot of the times it's just about understanding which relationships you need to nurture in the organizations with the people who will influence, who sit in the rooms which you don't have access to, but where decisions are being made that are going to impact you. And so you have to craft a brand because what is that person going to talk to? And if you have packaged your brand, then there are certain basic things. Show up on time, do great work in your projects, ask for feedback proactively, volunteer for things that expand your understanding of maybe how a business works and operates, because then you begin to establish a reputation of somebody who is curious, who is thinking to broaden their horizons, and who is always up for a challenge. And a number of roles, those are basic requirements. But if you stick in your corner, and I know there are a lot of people who say I'm introvert, but recently I was listening to this a fairly new podcast by a number of creatives. I think it's 2 people hosts. It's called the Creatorium. It's a Nigerian podcast. And the lady said something that really struck me. She said, you practice introversion, you practice extroversion. So you can't say you're an introvert because there are certain situations where you're placed and you are talking as loudly and engaged. And
laughing and all over the place. Yeah.
So that then sort of thought, it struck a chord with me because I'm like, actually, that's true, because we hide behind saying I'm an introvert, so I won't show up for those functions where I can network with the influential people. You think about it, and this is perhaps more for women. The men will go and hang out in the bar, in the sports club, whatever it is that brings them together. As women, and especially when you take on motherhood, you're running home to sort out homework. But in that hectic life, take the time out to have a coffee. You might not go out and do the bar hopping and the golfing because it might not fit where you are at the time, but take the time when you're in the office. Instead of having the coffee at your desk, go and have it with that person whose opinion you need to be hearing about, or getting a sense for what's happening. Like, go to lunch with somebody. You use what is already there, to work with that. Because if nobody knows about you, trust you ain't going nowhere. So for me, it was coming to that understanding, and it came fairly late in my career because I was still happily going on in this comfort zone of, but they know me, they know my work. So that realization came much, much later. And in a way, for me, that's one point of regret to say I should have done more then. But you live and you learn. And I guess also for your personal brand, you have to be, I guess, clear on what you stand for. So over a period of time, I've sort of centered what I do around maybe 3 key things. One is marketing, and then I'm now recently really getting into corporate governance, and then doing work on the diabetes side in terms of education and advocacy. So Those are the three areas you will find me operating in. So even when you're pitching yourself as a brand, like, where do we place you? If I suddenly showed up in an engineering forum, you'd be like, what are you doing? What? But it's interesting because I was asked to moderate I think it was last month or early this month, a panel for the Institute of Professional Accountants in Uganda. And when they sent me the invitation, I was like, but why have you picked me? And they said, we have picked you because we want a different voice in the room. We always have fellow accountants and financial people and auditors. And we felt that we needed something different, a fresh perspective. So I was like, okay, I'm privileged to be a part of it. But for me, that was an important, should I say, reinforcement to say, okay, I can cross boundaries, because sometimes you think those are my 3 boxes and I shouldn't get out of them. But the fact that you're now being asked to come and speak or be in spaces where you traditionally wouldn't be, then says, okay, maybe it's time to be a little bit braver and step out into spaces that you're not so comfortable in, because you don't know what you reap from there. So it's an evolution. I think at this point in time, I am more comfortable in who I am. But that's a function of time and experience. It will come inevitably. But I think now I'm more intentional about the spaces I want to be in, what I want to get involved in. And if it doesn't align with my mission, my vision, and my values at a personal level, I'm not getting involved in it.
So what does a strategic story look like to you, right? And how can a founder know when their story is working for or against them?
I'll probably start with the answer for the second one.
Yes.
There's nothing more gratifying as being a business owner and you overhear a conversation where someone is saying, where can I find, if I want to go out, where should we go? We are family, and the person says, of course you have to go to CJ's. Or they say, of course you have to come to Fairway.
Yes.
That's when you know your storytelling has worked. Wow. So that means you have to understand, what story are we telling? What's the narrative we want to put out there? Is it backed up by the experiences that we're offering? When things go wrong, do we come back and tell people how we've addressed said challenges? And how often are we using our customers to speak on our behalf? Because there is nothing more powerful than a customer testimony, because it's what happened to them and what it did. So about 20 years ago, we lost our mom, and she was in hospital for quite a while. And one of the local supermarkets used to provide us with, I used to go and buy diapers because she was in ICU for a very long time, about almost a year. Wow. And these guys basically gave me diapers for free for that entire period.
A supermarket?
A supermarket. Because they personally knew my mom. Do you think I'm ever going to shop anywhere else? When someone asks me, where do you want to go?
You point
They're the people that I refer.
Yeah.
So when you start to have that, you know that your stories are working when people are talking about you without you even having to spend any money to put your messages out there. Yeah. Of course, you will need to spend some money, whether it's in the traditional advertising, maybe on television, on radio, you're on, I don't know, billboards, you're in social media, because you need to create that awareness. Your story doesn't get told in a vacuum.
Yes.
I think our friend Tinka always says that if you're not out there, it's like winking in the dark at a girl and expecting her to have a response. Yeah.
Shout out Tinka.
Yeah. So you have to be able to put that story out, because trust that if you are not telling your story, someone else is.
Yes.
So I think those are some of the things we have to be sort of mindful of, that we know our storytelling is working when other people are talking about us, when we have not prompted it. Yeah. But it does require investment in getting a good quality story. And that, by that I mean good quality production, whether it's photography or video, and getting that material out there, but making sure that the messaging makes sense, that it speaks to what you're trying to connect with, and that you're not tone deaf. Because sometimes you see some messages and you're like,
what times
have
are we
they
living in?
really thought about? That's probably not a wise idea. And so we have to be careful that it might be a really interesting thing that we, in terms of the way it's being presented, But don't forget to look at the cultural and the contextual nuances before you put those stories out there.
You and I could go on and on when it comes to to this topic, because even now there are questions bubbling up, and I know let's take right down.
Let's stick
to the script. Let's not go off script. But I thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge. I think some of us are new to what branding is and even marketing and how that impacts us. And whether we are business owners or individuals, the world is changing in a way that we now all have to communicate and learn how to tell our stories. Like you said, if you're not telling your story, someone else is going to tell it for you. All right. So Jackie, where can people find you if they need to find you?
I am self-employed. I have a consulting firm called the Guru Consult, but I also double as a senior consultant for JKC Consulting for corporate governance work. So reach me by phone or email.
Okay. I also say follow on LinkedIn.
Oh yes,
just saying, yeah, because you get enough information there. And Jackie doesn't write small. She writes like paragraphs. So sit down, read, take it all in, but it is all worth it. Okay, Jackie, thank you so much for sharing your story and your strategy with us. And if you are watching and feeling fired up to own your own narrative, you're in the right space. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment about what part of Jackie's story resonated with you most. Until next time, I'm Solea Munyana, and this is What's Your Story? Because how you tell it is how they see it. Thank you for watching.